Hey everyone, this is Ange. So a recent comment on Reddit got me to think, why do I love visual novels so much? In this video, I'm going to go over 10 reasons why I love the medium. Number 1. Each visual novel release is almost guaranteed to have a complete story. For the most part, visual novels I read can have a complete experience whether you read all routes or even choose to do like one or two. Part of why I haven't been into watching TV, anime, manga, and hell, sometimes story video games is because there's not always a guaranteed complete ending. Having to wait for episodes or chapters once a week, or seeing season 1s not get a sequel or just any proper conclusion burned me out from consistently watching or reading more from those mediums. I personally like the ability to be able to just binge a visual novel knowing I can at least get a complete experience, whether it's good or bad. Number 2. The varying length of releases. When it comes to most story-based media, we have some expectation of lengths based on the medium. Anime has seasons or cores of 12 to 13 episodes each and are roughly 20-minute long episodes. Manga chapters tend to be roughly 20 pages per chapter, but there can be some exceptions. One particular medium I didn't talk about in the previous section was movies. Movies do tend to tell complete stories, but the medium in particular has stories that tend to be done within 2 hours. At least for me, this becomes an issue where you have to build up both a story and characters in such a short time frame that with many movies I end up not really caring much about either. With visual novels, even the shorter visual novels like Sai no Uta or Planetarian are longer and have more build up than most movies. But I like how visual novels aren't afraid to be crazy long while still being consistently interesting. Stuff like Grisaya, muv-luv Alternative, and Umineko all easily break 50 hours of pure story, and they're some of the most renowned visual novels of all time. Having all that extra build-up, setting, and character development really helps for immersion, though I'd say my personal sweet spot is something in between the 20 to 30 hour range. Number 3. Overall good, consistent presentation. Now don't get me wrong, when stuff like anime or movies are at their best, they can have some great looking visuals and animation. However, there are times when things feel a little bit too factory oriented, or when animators are clearly being forced to have their weekly animation deadline rushed. For the most part, visual novels tend to have good-looking sprites, backgrounds, and CGs. They're not always the fanciest compared to animated stuff, but more work ends up being put in individual facial sprites and stuff. Also, I tend to find visual novel music is a lot more memorable than most media outside maybe video games. It probably helps composers have to make music people will have to enjoy listening to for 10 to 20 or more hours. Number 4. Choices. Now, not all visual novels have choices, or ones that are important. The vast majority of Umineko and muv-luv Alternative don't need them, for example, but the vast majority of visual novels still do, and there could be a good range of choice variety. For example, in Fate Stay Night, there's so many potential bad ends with the various amount of choices you can make. While in a Marmalade visual novel like Marshmallow All the Way Home, the only choice that matters is the way end, where you just choose which heroine route you want to go on. There are also visual novels with meaningless choices for humor purposes like Clannad or Majikoi. Speaking of routes and choices, in anime I've seen so many cases of complaining about best guy or best girl not quote-unquote winning. Well, with visual novels you don't have that problem at all. You get to either choose who you think is the best love interest or the one the most fitting of the protagonist. Of course, this doesn't apply when certain fan favorite minor characters don't get routes, but that's besides the point. Speaking of, number 5, Fandiscs. Not every major series gets them, and they're not always the highest quality. However, I really like the idea of most of them. If people want more romance time with their favorite love interest, or if a certain character didn't get a route, this is the perfect opportunity for the devs to ask the fans for forgiveness by making these new routes. One of my personal favorites is A Sky Full of Stars Fine Days, which had good sequel routes for the original 4 heroines, while also giving solid routes to Honoko Yoshioka, the teacher Miharu, and my personal favorite, Hinami Yamada. Number 6. Surprising genre variety. The vast majority of visual novels are romance-oriented, as expected of a medium where H scenes are everywhere. However, even if we didn't account that, there's still a good variety of genres covered, and some pretty unique types of stories you can't find much in other mediums. Without spoilers, there's also a handful of plot twists that could only be done in the visual novel medium. Number 7. 18+ content or sex scenes. This is admittedly a point of contention in the visual novel community, but honestly, the fact that these are an option is a huge boon in my opinion. I can't think of another medium that incorporates both fanservice and or plot-related sex with characters you actually have time to get attached to. Usually sex in media is relegated to just porn, or some kind of abridged and covered up scene in 3D movies. That said, in visual novels, you're likely not going to see plot development sex that often, but if you really like your fan service sex with characters you get attached to, or like the buildup of relationship consummation and such, H scenes are a great thing to have. It would be nice to have an option to auto-skip H scenes in visual novels more often for people who don't like reading them. Number 8. A good way to practice the Japanese language. As someone who's learned a bit of Japanese, one thing I appreciated about the visual novel medium is how convenient it is to get practice from both listening and reading. With anime, you're basically only getting listening practice unless you can find a version of the anime with Japanese subtitles. With manga and light novels, you do have text, but zero voice acting, so basically no listening practice. With visual novels, you get the best of both worlds. And thanks to the fandom, there are plenty of Japanese text extraction tools like Textractor, so you can easily look up words you don't know. Number 9. Quality non-Japanese products. As far as Japanese weeb fandom mediums go, visual novels are the only one that I can think of that actually get both respected and very popular non-Japanese releases. While there are some people who consider RWBY or Avatar: The Last Airbender anime, for the most part when people think anime, they think Japanese originals. Same thing with manga and light novels. Of course, most visual novels are still known for the Japanese originals, but when you have things like Karawa Shoujo and Doki Doki Literature Club being many people's first forays into the medium, and two for the most well-visual novels period, that's a great sign for Western devs. These Western devs even have their own decently popular platform in itch.io. There's even kind of well-known stuff from other countries like Korea's Mystic Messenger and Lucy, the Eternity She Wished For. Number 10. The community. This one might be a little contentious since there are some very strong personalities and ongoing arguments among varying parts of the community. But in a way, visual novels still being a relatively niche medium makes it so almost everyone kind of knows the different aspects of the community. Official English publishers have some of the most open and direct communication I've seen, so seeing the publishers' reactions to people's opinions is a lot easier to see. I've seen a lot of great fan projects related to visual novels, like the very popular visual novel database VNDB, Textractor for extracting Japanese text, and various restoration fan patches for people not happy with certain official releases. I also just generally like seeing people's opinions on visual novels on different types of social media, like Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, Discord, etc. Now if we only got more consistent visual novel YouTubers like these, that would be pretty nice. And there you have it, 10 reasons I love the visual novel medium. Do you have any thoughts on any of the reasons I listed? What are some things you guys like about the visual novel medium in particular? Feel free to leave a comment below with your opinions.